Hey, James G here with Tarpley Music in Fort Worth, Texas. But remember, you can always find us online at tarpleymusic.com. Now, today's a really exciting video because we are going to look at the PreSonus Eris Gen 2 Studio 5 monitors. Now, I actually use a predecessor to these in the YouTube studio, so I'm familiar with the PreSonus stuff and been really great in a small room and small studio. I think they're great for home studios. Quite honestly, though, I think they can hold their own in a professional situation as well. So these are the Gen 2s. Now it's a 80 watt biamp. Okay, so you get 45 watts that's going down to the low driver here, the 5¼ inch, and then you got 35 watts that's sending it up to the 1-inch high frequency driver. Now the frequency range is from 48 to 20. Now the way they're getting that 48, that's pretty low for a speaker. Put it in essence, the human ear's capability is 20 to 20K. Okay? When you hear a bass drum and you get that real thumpy bass drum, that's at 50 hertz usually. So you can actually get kick thump out of this if it's going down to a 48. Very, very cool. And the reason is because they got this really nice ported enclosure that pushes back. Not to mention that the air is going to be coming right out of here. So you can feel that punch as well. So that's pretty cool especially for a 5-inch speaker. And it's a woven composite low frequency driver also, so it's really tight and it's going to be a really clear kind of a bass sound. Now they do have a built-in crossover, of course, and a crossover is basically when the speaker says, hey, these frequencies need to go from here to here. Okay, much like colors and whites in your laundry, right? If you separate them there, they're going to stay more vibrant. So will audio. So crossovers at about 3.5K. That's where a lot of your high keyboard sounds are. Violins like woodwinds, things like that will be at that 3.5. So it's going to separate that stuff. And you can get all the way down to 48 without a sub. Pretty impressive here. Now the other thing that they claim to here is the EBM, the elliptical boundary modeled. Okay, so this is what it says. Waveguide provides superior high frequency response and 120-degree horizontal dispersion to create a broad sweet spot. Narrow vertical dispersion reduces reflections from your desk, and a silk dome tweeter ensures snappy, accurate transient reproduction. Great. What does that mean? Okay, so really what it means is it's talking about the wide dispersion of the horizontal this way, okay? The predecessors, I believe, had 100. So this is 120. So it's a little bit wider dispersion when it talks about narrow vertical this way, is because if you have a really wide vertical dispersion like this, you're going to get bounced off the desk and anything else that's going on. So it's really tight and it's narrow this way. And why is that important? Well, one of the main importance when you're mixing is getting panning correctly. And if you're not an engineer yet, take note of that. So if you've got a really wide dispersion of 100, you can really pinpoint where that panning is. It becomes very, very clear in your mix. So I'm really excited to mix on these for that reason, because I haven't mixed on them yet. So we're just kind of talking about in this sense here. We can pull up the chart here. This is actually a frequency response chart. And if you can see where it starts at about 100, it gets a little bit blip, but it stays really, really flat until you hit about 10K. And then it has a little spark, so it looks like it's really flat in between that. And of course, it drops down a little bit as it goes to that 48 hertz. So I have a feeling that, majority of everything you're going to have is going to be a really nice flat response. That 10K, we're talking about very clear, crystally kind of bright sounds that are on top, not necessarily main wave files. So it'll be pretty interesting to see how that works with that. So let's talk about some of the connections and the features of the speaker itself. So first of all, we've got your inputs. You still have an unbalanced RCA, very old school, but a lot of things are still using that connection. And then you have two balanced. Of course, you have your 1/4-inch TRS, your tip rig sleeve, and then you have your XLR here. And then you've got your main volume, the gain for the speaker itself. Here's some other great things. It's actually got a mid and high frequency. This is a +6 or -6, so it's a boost or gain of a certain frequency. And a lot of times that has to do with your room. You may hear the phrase EQing your room. That's kind of what you're doing. So this high frequency is dealing with anything it's like 10K and higher. And if you remember, we were talking about on the graph earlier, 10K is where it has kind of a peak. So you could always dial that back to flatten it out a little bit more. It's probably why that feature is there. So if you really want to get flat, even up those high things there. And then your mid is at 1K. Very important because most voices are about 1 to 2K is where you hear most singing voices, and so that gives you an idea to be able to dial that back a little bit. There's an acoustic space switch here, which is flat, -2 dB, -4 dB. That simply means what size room I'm in. Okay, if it's pushing a little bit too much, you may want to take that down if you're in a really small, hey, I've recorded in closets. That was all the room that I had, so I've done it. So that might be a reason you would use that. The low cut feature it gives you flat, of course, so that basically means that it's going to give you everything down to 48. Then there's an 80 hertz and 100 hertz. Well, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to take out the low bass, right? Well, you get all nice and snuggly and you're in your studio and you hear this great, awesome mix, right? Then you go in your car, you listen to your earbuds, and there's no bass. It doesn't sound at all like that. Well, that's because you're using those frequencies that a lot of people probably aren't going to listen to. They're listening to on their phones or earbuds. It's sad but true. That's what's happening. So if you're mixing, it's like, well, I'm going to hit that, that negative, the 80 there, and I still get a good mix, then it's probably going to sound really good on a lot of those devices as well. So it's important to have that option there. Now, the last possible thing is the protection that it gets. So it protects you from RF interference, over temperature. Actually, if these have a safe mode that if they're on for 40 minutes with nothing going through them, they shut off. And if you're really bad about turning monitors off, like this guy right here, and I forget a lot, it's kind of nice. They're going to go ahead and shut off for you. The last thing I really like is they have a soft start. If you've done any home recording, if you've been in the studio and you turn all your stuff on and your monitors pop and it's really, really annoying. So these have a soft start, which basically takes that no popping during the power up phase out of it. So really killer. There's a lot of stuff going on in a speaker at a price point that's very, very fair that can be used in a very amateur situation all the way up to pro. So what we're going to do is I actually have a song that I recorded early, and I recorded all the tracks myself, and I did them all through headphones. So I just kind of have an idea of the rough tracks in the headphones. So we're going to do a mix on these guys right here to see what kind of mix I can get through when I hear them through these speakers. And we're going to throw it out there for the world to hear and for the world to comment. And good, bad, ugly, whatever you comment is absolutely fine. What we need is your opinion, and what we need is interest in listening to these monitors. So we're going to get right to it. We're going to do a cool mix on these 2 monitors and see what we come up with. Always there, close my eyes at night, and I feel her next to me as I hold my pillow tight. I'm not sure that I've even seen her face, and I'm not sure I even know her name, but I know I'll always love her. She's the woman that I'll never forget. But love, please tell me, have I met her yet? She loves to laugh and knows when to cry, and I know that she really loved me, 'cause I read it in her eyes. Well, through thick and thin, we'll always fight to stay alone, and through the years she's the woman that I've dreamt of. But I know I'll always love her. She's the woman that I'll never forget. But love, please tell me, have I met her yet? Well, I kiss her stay away. She and I will joke with no regrets. But love, please tell me, have I met her yet? Have I met her yet? Well, have I met her yet? Alright, so the new PreSonus Eris Studio 5s. I've had a lot of different monitors in my life and have used a lot in this price range from, Behringer and Rocket and Yamaha and everyone else. So I feel I got a really good idea of comparison of these. And these were really fun to mix on. Especially because I really felt like there's just a really wide dispersion with this 120 degree where I could really pinpoint panning, because a lot of times I'll just close my eyes and I'll pan where I feel an instrument needs to go before I look at my phase meter or whatever, and this really made it really easy to do that. With the hitting down to 48, I felt like I could really work out some lows without having to turn them way up to hear them, and then I go out to my car and hear there's way too much bass, and things like that. Other than that, these are just really, they feel really, really solid. And that matters. You think about how much you're using them constantly. They're always part of your mixing process. They're part of your tracking process. They're part of a mastering process if you do your own mastering. All the connections that you need perfectly to stand by them. If you just want to hit on standby for whatever reason, I tend to, like I said, when I'm at home, I'll do a low cut. Just everything's there that I would need to do a really good home recording or in a studio, quite honestly. And they don't break the bank. So anyway, not to mention, gorgeous looking speaker. They're really elegant, they're really simple, and there's things that you don't really think about until you own a studio and clients come in, okay? They need a wow factor when they come in and they see all this cool gear and buttons and stuff like that. So if you got these nice, sleek looking monitors, because they're such an integral part of what you're doing, it matters. So I really enjoyed mixing with these. I really love listening to different monitors because you kind of get in tune with the monitors you have, so it's really kind of cool to refresh yourself doing things like that. So I hope you learned something, got some interest in these monitors, especially if you are looking, because this is a great price point, like I said, and a lot of longevity out of these. These are not a year or two monitor. I think you'll get a lot more life out of them. If you did enjoy it, make sure you hit a like there for us, and if you haven't subscribed to our channel, you need to subscribe to the channel just by hitting the subscribe button below. And if you'd like to know, as we're dropping more videos, because we are dropping all kinds of different videos all the time, you can just hit the little bell and turn on notifications, and we'll see you on the next one.